humanity can be defined as the human race, or just a term to define human beings collectively. Virus, which could be defined as a harmful or corrupting influence. And I believe that this is a definition that perfectly defines humanity. As we all know, viruses spread relatively quickly, and in the case of humanity, this is known as overpopulation. According to Worldmeter's population in the world, the current world population is at 7.8 billion people as of March 2020, and it is currently rising at a rate of around 1% per year. If the current average population increase is estimated at 81 million people per year, and it's only going to keep rising. It took over 200,000 years of human history for the world's population to reach 1 billion, and only 200 years to reach 7 billion. This shows that our population is rapidly increasing and doesn't show any signs of stopping. In particular, according to Eco-Psychology, Volume 11, human overpopulation is contributing to the depletion of natural resources and hindering the resilience of ecosystems upon which human beings depend for survival. For example, take the COVID-19. I would like to cite a quote from the Grist. Coronavirus is Earth's vaccine, and we're the virus. As a result of the COVID-19 and quarantine, air pollution is slowing down, and carbon emissions have plummeted since the onset of this global crisis. For example, in China, air pollution levels have dropped roughly over a quarter in the last month as coal-fired power plants and industrial facilities have ramped down, so employees in high-risk areas can stay home for their own safety and protection. Levels of nitrogen dioxide, a pollutant primarily is made from burning fossil fuels, were down as much as 30%, according to NASA. As well as there have been many stories of animals and wildlife returning to their natural habitats. For example, in Venice, the water canals have been reported to be clearer and full of fish. And the citizens of Wuhan can finally hear birds chirping after years. Additionally, you can even now, the Tatra Mountains are visible from Krakow, Poland, because the smog has lifted a significant amount. As you can clearly see, when we as humans remove ourselves from the environment, it's finding ways to return to its natural healthy state. This is why we, as the affirmative team, strongly agree with the motion that humanity is a virus.
Overgeneralizing people who are inherently not at fault for the environment is very much a heavy overgeneralization, and we think that the problem that opposition wants to raise today is that there are people who are not that we need to solve. For example, like we need to put a certain groups responsible to the effects they're implanting on the environment, but not the whole humanity. What is our case in this debate? First, we'll tell you why certain individuals are more responsible in the problems they're facing today. We will tell you, second, why the framing of proposition team is inherently problematic in the sense that they want to move to an utopian in where humanity does not exist at all. In that case, is ecology, even in its perfect sense, still something is owned by 20% of the world's, 10% of the world's population. This is incredibly problematic in the sense that 47% of the world's, for example, waste is largely produced by large corporations. We think that not every individual's for example, litter on the same level, or not all individuals are directly responsible for the environmental impacts that they're making. Proposition's burden is to say why everyone has a certain duty to ecology to an extent that they have to sacrifice their life, or they have to, that their existence solely matters not as much as the damage they have caused to the ecology. In the sense that we tell you the trade-off is much better. People generally of common sense knowledge are aware of environmental problems, and they do work every day to, for example, solve a part of that environmental problem. Second, we tell you that the utopia of proposition team is inherently problematic in the sense that when they tell you humanity is a problem in and of itself, they reject the existence of humanity in the planet. And we tell you that when we have this perfect ecology, it is not made to be of use by anyone. Anyway, we think that even when propositions raise a very soft case that, okay, will erase a part of humanity, that is still very much untrue, right? We think that even when we blame very big corporations for these actions of affecting the environment, they still, a part of them still somehow contribute a lot to returning back or solving the problems that we have of the environments. That is to say, big corporations are the ones who enact or are the ones who have the most power to leverage or to tell people what to do with the environment. We thank you first.
So firstly, I'd like to start by rebutting the opposing team's arguments. So their argument, what I got from the debate, their argument is that the group of people who are viruses to the earth, who cause harmful effects on the earth, can be placed into a group, and that group doesn't mean the whole humanity. But I'd like to state that the motion obviously uses the word humanity, which means the whole human race as a whole. So I think that their argument is kind of straying away from the whole debating topic today. So yeah. So now I'd like to continue to my arguments. So humans have done nothing but harm and affect the earth in negative ways. And pollution is one of those factors. Look at any ecosystem and there can be multiple forms of contamination, such as streams full of toxic chemicals from industrial processes, rivers full of pollutants that kill fishes and contaminate drinking water for humans, city skies covered with smog, and streets full of plastic bags because humans are too uncivilized to put them in the correct place. Even landscapes that appear to be pristine and beautiful can be contaminated by invisible contaminants from thousands or hundreds of miles away. Pollution, as we all know, pollution is a harmful collection of contaminants and chemicals that harm animals, humans, and all living organisms. Pollution may poison soils and waterways or kill plants and animals. So according to the Geological Society of America, we estimate that humans have used more than 50% of Earth's surface, which is destroying the habitat of living creatures and species that have long been extinct because of humans' exploits on the Earth's surface. And also, according to NASA, the concentration of carbon dioxide on Earth's atmosphere right now is currently 412 parts per million, and it is still rising. This represents a 47% increase since the beginning of the industrial age. As we all know, the CO2 causes the greenhouse effect, which traps heat inside of Earth's atmosphere and creates global warming, which changes the temperature of the Earth's surface and affects humans as a whole.
Distinguished chair and opponents, also fellow teammates. On opposition, we think that humanity as a whole is not a virus. Profit-seeking is a virus to the environment. That's the alternative that we are proposing to you, and that's something that proposition never engaged with. Because what we tell you is that as with humanity, there are inherently good people and there are bad people, because you can never overgeneralize, because no one is like the same thing, right? Because not everybody is like each other with their characteristics. So we think that this overgeneralization is just not true. Okay, so several points of rebuttal. We think that what they told, the first speaker told us, is that we should remove ourselves from the environment. But the thing is, here's the problem, right? When you say that you remove yourself from the environment, it's actually because of this narrative of like humanity is a virus. They can just pick and choose whoever are the more vulnerable, whoever are the more marginalized, to remove supposedly in their world, right? So the example can look like rich countries can fund population control programs to restrict immigrants, or or you can like ban poorer people from entering your country, for example. We think that's the sort of removing yourself in this case means. Okay, so why do we think that it is not like humanity as a whole is a virus, but it is profit-seeking? So according to the ecologists, right, we think that in the fact that you say that humanity is a virus, you individualize that blame. And we think that this is particularly racist, colonialist, and particularly harmful for like poor communities. Why? Because you divert the attention from the actions of those that benefit the most. For example, corporation, fossil fuel company, and from like these vastly unequal socio-economic system, and you deliberately obscure that root cause of the problem, which is of course not like, because we are established, not everyone contributes to like global warming in the same sense, right? Because some people, they are very like eco-friendly, for example, for poor people even.
As the last speaker, I would like to sum up my team's idea and provide some studies in order to support our arguments. As my teammates have said, our team strongly believe that humanity is a virus. The reason for it is because we are doing nothing but causing harm to our host, which is the Earth. First, overpopulation is one of the most controversial problems at the moment. The UNICEF estimated that an average of 353,000 babies are born each day around the world, and the number of population is rising rapidly. When the level of overpopulation is reached, a number of negative effects can occur, and several correlations are being discovered.
Of my time before I actually begin my speech to revise the motion for today, right? The motion for today is humanity is a virus, right? So essentially, the burden of side proposition in today's debate is not just only to tell us that, yes, some humans are actually harming the environment, or some like profit-oriented corporations are actually harming the environment. Essentially, their burden is to prove to us that everyone in our society actually directly harming to the environment. We think this is untrue, right? We think this is a very big fallacy coming from their side, and this is hasty generalization, ladies and gentlemen. Essentially, we think that in our society, we have a lot of people who are willing to be who are actually trying to protect the environment. They are starting initiatives to actually cleaning the garbages that on the beach, or they're trying to pursue a lifestyle such as the zero waste lifestyles. And we think that essentially these are the things that these are the things that are not really harmful to the environment, and these people are trying to pursue it. We think that essentially on their side, they're trying to demeaning every single initiative, every single initiative that we have tried, that humanity have tried in order to protect the environment. We think that essentially this is the reason why we don't essentially think that those individuals, those people are a virus at all.